Okay, so this is Woodlawn. And so like I like to do, just kind of first of all, tell me where you think you are. Where are you? Huh? Yeah, we're in a business district, a commercial district. And what tells you that?
These buildings, this one looks like it would be more commercial. Maybe the layout, maybe we have multiple storefronts along this side, and
Okay.
then probably there's some on the other.
Yeah, pretty simple. The architecture
The
tells you it doesn't seem to be residential. It's single family. We don't know if people are living in there or not.
I mean, it could be,
But we know that it was built, it appears, for commercial, right? So it's got the different bays. Your eyes just telling you that, right? So I'm just trying to get you to take thoughts and bring them forward and articulate what it is you know or think you're seeing, that sort of thing. Okay, so the Woodlawn Business Commercial Historic District was put on the National Register in the 1980s. How long ago was that?
40 years ago.
40 years ago, right? Norwood Boulevard, not the whole big thing, but the boulevard was put on the National Register in the 1980s. And then the neighborhood around it in the 1990s. 5 Point South put on the National Register in the 1970s, the commercial district. Avondale in the early 2000s. There was a news report on the radio yesterday that said that some new businesses are coming to Avondale. I may be saying that wrong. I think they're putting some new things in place, maybe some public infrastructure, public improvements. Did you hear this?
Yeah.
Am I saying it right?
Yeah, like new sidewalks.
New sidewalks, that's right. Widening the sidewalks and doing some other things in order to prompt more financial investment into the commercial district, right? And it went on to say what I've said to y'all, which is that the revitalization of Avondale started in the early 2000s when the Avondale Park was revitalized, spearheaded by a local Avondale Park, Friends of Avondale Park, mainly driven by women, right? Not so.
This improvement, I think in 2018, it was already a while ago, and they just now were like, okay, we're actually going to do this.
Here in Woodlawn, yeah. Is that what you're saying?
In
Avondale, yeah. And so my point being that these things take, in my long watching these things, 40 years. It's not unusual to take 40 years
To not rehabilitate.
to completely transform a place from one thing to another. When it's this and then goes backwards a lot and then it come forward a lot, takes about 40 years. Reservation Park, Railroad Park, was being planned by city planners at City Hall and private architectural people, Friends of Railroad Park, in the 70s. Okay? So these things take a long time, and we're trying to learn about what happens to them, what causes that kind of initial decline, why does it take so long, what comes about to trigger finally some revitalization, that sort of, what pieces need to be in place, what tools are there, that sort of thing. I'm trying to get you to recognize those things. Is that fair enough? Are you learning those kinds of things? Yeah? This building we were just passing by was the old fraternal hall, a Masonic lodge, I believe, right here. Regular commercial buildings, nothing particularly outstanding about them, but they're intact. They're next to each other. There's not too much gap. That Masonic building was built in 1914. The plaque said so. So they have to do a little bit of research for those plaques, not a lot at all, but something. And so just kind of stand here, look back where we just were, where we were standing, look that way. How would you compare this to the Avondale Commercial District? The way it looks, the way it feels, what it says to you?
This one seems more, like more expensive retail.
Oh, that's interesting.
Avondale.
More expensive retail. I'm not sure what that means
Well,
exactly.
I think Avondale, there were a lot of there were quite a few rundown buildings.
Okay, so let me follow up
Well,
on Anastasia's point. You said more expensive retail. What do you mean by that? Do you mean now or?
The way the buildings are built, they have office buildings above them, so they seem like, or apartment buildings, so they seem more,
You're talking about when they were built or now?
like the buildings themselves.
The buildings themselves.
The ones in Avondale did not have upper stories.
A lot of them didn't. Some of them did. But I think there's anybody else. What's the difference between the way this looks? I agree with you, Anastasia, for sure. Between the way this area where we're standing, looking around, looks, and the way the Avondale area looked. What do you say, Alyssa?
All of the retail spaces look like they fit closer together. The ones at Avondale were more spaced out. You
You
had to drive to them.
had to drive to them. So I think you make a good observation. What you might say is this is more walkable, right? It looks more like it belongs in a community, maybe, right? Some of that you're talking about in Avondale spaced out is because they're vacant lots. But also, you do have a lot of standalone buildings that aren't attached to anything, right? And so there's a totally different feel. And I think to your point, Anastasia, if I'm hearing you right, it looks like this was maybe a more substantial area to shop or whatever it is you were doing. Because the buildings are more refined. They're prettier, aren't they? They're more detailed, more clustered together, as if it's a community, I think. The building there, it's meant to appeal to the corner. It's got a corner facade right there, right? So it's appealing to the whole community, right, as an anchor right there. Would you say that?
Yeah.
And then the Masonic Temple, we'll go back down that way when we're done, is a 3-story building. Not many 3-story buildings. In fact, I guess it's the only 3-story building. But a Masonic lodge, that's a very community-oriented thing, a fraternal lodge, definitely. Okay, so this area, Woodlawn, the whole neighborhood, goes way back to the 1840s. There's nothing left of that, for sure. But there was a man named, family named Wood. I think it was in the 1840s, owned a lot of land here. There were slaves around here. There's still not going to be significant big slave populations in Jefferson County, but there were slaves associated with the wood plantation, I guess, property, whatever it is. None of that is visible now. Woodlawn, what we're seeing now, begins to be built after Birmingham was founded, right? And it was founded. Well, I'm gonna ask you, what is that building?
City Hall.
City Hall. What does that say to you?
Woodlawn was its own city. That's
Woodlawn was its own city, right?
Did it get incorporated in 1910 with all the other stuff?
It got pulled in, that's exactly right, yep. So Woodlawn was its own town when that was built, that's for sure. I think it was 1905 or something like that, 1904, maybe a little bit. Well, it says on that plaque, we'll go look at it, on that stone inlaid into the building. And so, yes, that's exactly what it says, that it was its own town. That much you can tell just by reading off that building. Everybody see that where it says City Hall? And it's an impressive building, isn't it? They look like they mean business. It's not a one-bay affair. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, and a middle bay, 5 bays, doesn't it? So it's quite a substantial building. And just what you said, Adam, in 1910, this was one of the suburbs that the city of Birmingham incorporates into the city of Birmingham. That's that huge movement in 1910 to create Greater Birmingham. And boy, did it, doubled its size, right? And so from that point on, it's no longer the Woodlawn City Hall. It's going to be something else, right? Well, I know that in the 20s, for instance, one thing it was where the Ku Klux Klan met. It had a lot of activities. And they don't own that building, but they are going to own the building a little more that way, which maybe we can see driving. Can't walk to it. But the Ku Klux Klan met there, okay? That doesn't make it unique in the city at all, by the way.
What year was the Klan here?
Well,
Here.
the Klan was at its peak all over the country,
Yeah.
including Maine and Oregon,
one-
in the 1920s.
Okay, yeah.
Do you know about the National Ku Klux Klan Parade? Did I mention this to you? In Washington in 1924, 1925, just marching marching to the White House, marching down the mall area. So the Ku Klux Klan was certainly not, it was at its peak right then all over the country. And so certainly during that time, it was meeting in this building. In other parts of the neighborhood.
In that building.
In that building, yeah. In other parts of the city, they They met in other places. In Fountain Heights, there was a little grocery store they met in a lot. So there were places all over the place. But that's kind of one of the more interesting ones because it was the city hall and that sort of thing. Okay, so tell me what you see on this building. How would you start to describe that building? What do you say, Sam? Start with how many floors. That's the easiest way to start, I think.
2 floors, brick.
2 what?
2 floors, brick.
Uh-huh. 2-story brick.
Yes. Multiple on the second floor, 1/1s.
Well, you can even say 4. It's built with a corner facade, so it's got 3 front facades, for one thing. That's the real significant thing about that, I think, architecturally. You follow me? Yeah. And so you could say there are 4 1/1 wood windows, right, in the left facade, and keep going. I think you would just say there's a limestone cap at the top. There's a limestone small cornice, you might say, just under the roof line. And then there's a set of 5 scrolls or columns, something like that, encased in a limestone.
What are they called? Half columns?
There's not a real particular name, but however you get as close to what you're seeing as you can. And it's enclosed by limestone framing. You see that? And You might, I'm sure there's at least one on that side, but there's one on that side, one on that side, and probably one on the other side, right? What about the first floor windows? What do you say, Trent?
Are those portrait windows?
Huh?
Are those portrait windows?
That's a good question. That's a good question. You're talking about picture windows. You don't think of picture windows in a commercial building. Think of picture windows in ranch-style houses or something like that. And so what I think you would say right there is that there are 3 bays. In commercial buildings, you talk about bays.
Okay.
3 bays on this facade. Now go. So you've got like, I don't know, I'm going to guess 3 by 10, 30 over 1. I'm just guessing on the middle one, right?
Yeah, 30 over 1.
30 over 1.
9 by 1.
And then to the left, you've got 9 over 1, right? Just do, right? Just very methodically. You follow me, Trent? Yeah.
Glass brick on the top.
Yes. Yes. So those are glass brick or glass block above those windows in the transom area. What does that suggest to you?
What year did you say those were?
Yeah.
Like,
40s.
okay.
40s, 50s. So that's exactly right. So that's, oh, wait, are those glass blocks?
I think they're just lots of different panes. I think they're just really dirty.
No, I think they're not. I'm sorry. I was so quick to
They look like
see
they are
what you
from
saw.
up here,
Yeah, but I don't believe they are. Yeah. So they're just original transom areas, I think. And then you've got the main entrance is on the corner facade, right? With the transom above. It doesn't have the separated panes, but over there you do. Okay? When would you guess maybe that building was built? Masonic building was built in 1914. I know we didn't stop and look at it a lot. What do you think about that one? Give me a range.
You said it was 1914.
14, that building down there. Just give me a range from what we've seen. And well, let me give you an asterisk by that. Almost nothing's built around the country in the 30s, right? We've got the Depression. There were some. Loveman's building was built in the 30s, but they're not a lot. They're the exception. So
It was built in the 20s.
I would think the 20s, maybe late teens.
Similar to a lot of the stuff in 5 Points.
Yeah.
It was built around that.
Yeah, because it looks too old to be built in the 40s. It's probably not built in the 30s, right? And so I'm thinking it was late teens or 20s. That's what I would guess. And you don't have to hit this right on the nail, but in the decade or so, right? Okay, let's look at this building over here. What do you see right there?
Okay.
Patrick,
It has.
how many floors?
It's one floor.
One story.
Yeah, 1 story. It's got. Is that it's supposed to be
What-
an entrance? I don't know. Well, I don't. I don't know. I can't really see from. It looks like an entrance.
When would you guess it might be built? Well, when wasn't it built, do you think?
Really early. 1910s or 20s.
It was definitely not
Very
built.
mid-century.
Maybe 50s. 50s.
Yeah, I think it's very mid-century.
It looks like the.
Yeah, it looks like a mid-century diner. Huh?
Yeah, I'd say 60s, 70s, probably 70s, but around in there somewhere. And what tells you that?
The flat roof with the long overhang and the big rows of big pane windows.
Yeah? Yeah, I'd say the flat roof.
Is that rod? Well, no, that's not wrought iron.
No, those are burglar bars. So I think the flat iron, it's a standalone building, right? Not that you can't have standalone buildings before that. And then you've got, it's got little or no design to it in terms of details or anything. And then it's got those five aluminum windows across the front and a central bay. Where could you find out for sure when this was built?
Sanborn? No.
Sanborn's might.
Yeah.
You could get close. It's probably going to be on a map. You could get close. In other words, the Sanborn maps aren't dated every year,
Yeah.
right? And where could you get even closer?
Board of Equalization.
Board of Equalization, maybe. But where's even better?
Directories.
City directories, I think, would get you better. But you might need them all to take a good. Okay, this makes sense. Because in the city directories, it was built later. So I would start with maybe 1960 if it were me, city directors, and see if there's a building there that wasn't there in 1955, right? Something like that. And then if you see a building, but it's got multiple tenants in it, I don't know, keep going, see if you see something that looks more like that. Compare it to Sanborn, maybe the Board of Equalization, and you can get real close that way, right? But you probably need to use all your resources to do it. Okay, so whenever this was built, 60s, 70s, something like that, what does that suggest to you? It's real simple. It's not hard. Well, yes, that there was, even in the 70s, there was new investment into the neighborhood. It's not as elaborate, but it's not a T-90 building. It's better than some of the buildings we saw in Woodlawn, right? I mean, in Avondale, right? Some of the 70s, 60s. So that's a more substantial building. Well, let me tell you what was happening here. So when, in the late 1940s, early 50s, when UAB was just beginning, late 1940s, 45, and then on, what happens was that the city of Birmingham, actually it was the housing authority of the city of Birmingham.
It was a what?
It was the housing authority of the city of Birmingham.
Yeah.
So there was a collection of doctors, including Dr. Volker. You've heard of that name, Volker?
The housing authority was located here in Woodlawn.
No, just Birmingham.
Okay, yeah.
So a group of doctors wanted to build a medical center in Birmingham, right? There was no medical center per se in the whole state, right? And so they wanted to do that. Well, that's a big deal, isn't it? How much money do you have to do that?
A lot.
A whole lot of money to do that. Well, where are they going to get that kind of money? State of Alabama?
No.
State of Alabama is poor, and it's sure controlled by the agricultural interests and industrial interests, is not going to, the legislature is, it's not going to be for spending every dime plus a whole lot on Birmingham. It's not going to be. And so the only route to this medical center is through the federal government. The South had been notoriously stubborn and resistant completely since the Civil War of having the federal government involved in anything, right? Because it was fearful that if the federal government was too involved or involved in the southern states, it might make them do things they didn't want to do, right? And it just had a bias, a mindset against it anyway, right? And so how is this group of doctors going to go about when U.S. Steel controls Birmingham, when Bull Connor is in Birmingham, kind of in league with U.S. Steel, not on staff, but in league, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How is it going to pull that off? Well, it decides that it will apply for a huge federal urban renewal grant from the federal government, right? To clear out where UAB is now, clear out the neighborhoods. I think we've talked about this before, right? Raise the neighborhood, tear it all down, all the neighborhoods in there, right? And the original was, I think, a 4-block area, okay? Well, when it tore down stuff, it tore down neighborhoods, right? Poor neighborhoods, mainly African American, some white also, right? So what's the next question, Adam? What's the next question once they know they're going to tear down those 4 blocks of neighborhoods?
What's going to go there?
Well, they know what's going to go there, UAB. What's the question before that happens? Anybody? Where the residents going to go? Uh-oh. Well, they're going to figure that out. They, of course, they're mainly black, and they're mainly
Renters? No.
mainly renters, mainly poor,
Yes.
mainly black. Well, they're not going to go to a white neighborhood, that's for sure, right? Because this is long before 1968 in the housing civil rights bill, right? So Birmingham does this. They take their 1926 zoning map, remember that? The new zoning map after the Supreme Court case coming out of California, rezoned everything. And I'm going to send you a copy of the 1933 map. They have different categories. They have the top category is something like stable and prosperous. And the second category is declining a little. And the third category is having a hard time. The last category is unstable. Well, they're going to survey neighborhoods, and they're going to designate Woodlawn as an unstable neighborhood. Oh, that's good, good, good. What does that mean, unstable neighborhood?
Poor?
It means it's poor,
A lot of crime?
huh?
A lot of crime?
Not necessarily.
Probably African American. I did that. That's how they got. That's how they got around.
Well, it's not African American yet,
Okay.
okay?
I assume that's how they got around the racial discrimination by saying unstable.
Well, that's the way they're going to categorize neighborhoods,
Yeah.
right? Unstable means that property values are low. There are a lot of transitional people, renters, things like that. You can get rid of them, right? So once you give a neighborhood like Woodlawn or any other neighborhood that last category, then it's fair game. That's where you're going to want to put poor people, displaced people. You're going to want to put some industry, whatever stuff you don't like can go over there, right? And that's part of what we call redlining, right? You figure out what neighborhoods, what category, and then you put stuff that is powerless. Put people that are powerless to stop whatever it is you're doing, okay? And so what happens is that a lot of the traffic, a lot of the residents from where UAB is now move to Woodlawn, right? And that's in the 50s, keeps going in the 60s. And when they do, this neighborhood where the Ku Klux Klan meets right in the heart of town, right? And like every other neighborhood is beginning to have to compete with the suburbs, other thing. If you've got choices here, where are you going? Somewhere. If you've got choices, and there is a very solid middle-class neighborhood. Woodlawn was historically very solidly middle working class. All of these neighborhoods have sections of black people, Negro sections, right? All these neighborhoods. And so, of course, there were always black people living in Woodlawn. We talked about in Norwood, behind the ritzy part was Dodge City, right? It's its nickname. That was the black neighborhood, right? And so this was sort of designated as where they would go, right? And so with federal monies to move them, they move them, right? And so Woodlawn becomes definitely transitioning in a big way now from predominantly white and middle class to African American poor or working class. Does that make sense to you? And when that happens, the white people who were here are infuriated. Who are they mad at?
City of Birmingham?
No.
No.
People moving in.
Yeah.
People moving in. And that's encouraged, isn't it? It's encouraged by what real estate people are saying, right? They're coming. Oh, boy, you better get out of here. They're coming. It's encouraged by the media, who is showing what's going on in neighborhoods, right? This is what happens. Oh, my God, right? And so in the mid-'70s, I was living in Trustful for a few years. And my next-door neighbor had moved from Woodlawn. He was at that time in his 70s. And you couldn't have a conversation with him without talking about the N-word at all. And he was bitterly furious with black people who he said pushed him out. They pushed him out. They pushed us out. You hear that term all the time. They pushed us out. And so that's their experience of it, right? Okay, so by the 1970s, like Avondale, like Five Points, like Inslee's about to collapse for good in 1976 when U.S. Steel shuts down most everything. But all of the city neighborhoods are under a lot of pressure. The only one that never feels pressure is Redmont up there, the mansions that we went up there. They never do have a decline. But very well-to-do neighborhoods near there, off Highland Avenue, Forest Park, places like that, are under a lot of pressure. And they're also being disinvested in, right? People with choices moving to the suburbs, Homewood, Mountain Brook, Vestavia, places like that, okay? And so this is going to be one of those neighborhoods that really is planned to be bad,
Yeah.
right? This is not something that they don't know is happening. They know that federal money is being used by the highway builders, by suburban builders to pull people out of downtown who have a choice and take them to the suburbs. They know that. They know that when they designate this as an unstable neighborhood, what's going to happen. They know this, right? They know this is going to decline. It's planned obsolescence, I would call it, right?
It's planned by what?
Planned obsolescence.
Ah, yes, yes.
And so that is what happens. And so from the 70s on until the last 10 years, you might say, this neighborhood has just been a dilapidated, unstable place, meaning if a business goes in, it may be gone next month, right? It's kind of there's very little stability here. You can see, I think, a bullet hole maybe through there. And the housing around here just becomes so dilapidated. A lot of wooden houses in Woodlawn, a lot of Victorian-era houses in Woodlawn, most of which are wood. They're always going to dilapidate first, and they're going to be harder and more expensive to rehabilitate and maintain, right? And so this is an area that went from being very solidly middle, a little upper middle class in here too, and working class to a ghost place, unstable, dangerous, place, and they knew it would, right? And so that's what happens here. Okay, let's cross the street when we get the light. Yeah, not yet. So what's happened is about 10 years ago, maybe more, a little bit more, when Operation New Birmingham, which I worked for a long time, which concentrated on downtown revitalization, right? The executive director had been there a long time, retired, right? So they decided to revamp that organization, and they revamped it into something that's called REV now, R-E-V. Maybe you've seen that. REV Birmingham. And the new executive director, who is a longtime preservationist, this doesn't happen that often, wanted to focus on neighborhood commercial centers and especially Woodlawn first. And so he came, put his offices here, which was early in the game, put his offices here. So he's making a statement, right, that I'm going to locate here. You may think it's a dangerous and bad place, but we don't.
Who located here?
REV.
Rev. And what is Rev again?
REV Birmingham, R-E-V.
Renovate.
It's called, it stands for revitalization, but
okay.
but the name of it is
Yeah.
REV,
Rev
Birmingham. Let's see when it was built. 1908 tells you right there, and tells you who was the mayor then, the building committee, all kinds of things. Who the architect was, you can see those things sometime. Who the aldermen were. And so when Rev Birmingham very publicly decided to put its offices here and concentrate on Woodlawn, that was a very good move, very good sign. Before that, there had been some things going on. Let's walk down here. To me, it's got a very cozy communal feel down here. You can listen to jazz, that's new. And right in here, let's see, yeah, recording studios. Located here in Avondale in the early 2000s, would have been the early 2000s. That was huge. And Reuben Studdard, do you know who he is? Who won American Idol in the 2000s sometimes. He was from Birmingham. He was one of the participants in opening this up. I believe that Stevie Wonder, who is a very good friend of the head of the music department at UAB, Dr. Panyon, they're good friends. I think Stevie Wonder.
Is that the blind?
Yeah.
musician? Yeah.
I believe he had something to do with this. And so the connections UAB had, and I think I'm right about this, I know they did some joint things, and I believe this was one of them they were participants in. So that was just huge when that happened. That was before Rev Birmingham came in here. And when they did, so you can go in there and record and different things like that. And it has these celebrity names attached to it, right? So that's a huge, huge deal. Recording studios have to have certain things, right? They've got to have the kind of space that, and be able to retrofit it or trick it out or whatever you want to say. For a recording studio, that kind of thing. And because of the names associated, of course, they were able to recruit people to come there and record, right? So it's a big deal, and it sets kind of a tone for Woodlawn. What kind of tone, if you will? would that suggest to you that these recording studios are coming in?
Cool, artsy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. Cool, artsy,
I was going to say hip, but
hip, all of those kinds of things, right? Which is important because neighborhoods can use an image, right? So that came in. I believe Rev had its offices in there for a time, and then I think they went down there. But the fact that you've got an intact street on both sides, right, of historic buildings. You don't have any vacant lots, that sort of thing. That is really important. And the buildings are nice, right? They've got it all got some detail. They've got a lot of the original stuff left. That's glass block, that's for sure. So this would probably be this was no doubt a 20s building, and then some reinvestment in the 40s, 50s, I'd say, for whatever reason. And so you've got these community businesses too, a funeral home, very community oriented, thrift stores, that kind of thing. So you get the sense of that this is for this community. Anybody can come, but this is for this community, right? Okay, let's go back out. See those little medallions above the storefront? Would you say that storefront is original or not original? What do you say, Bo?
That one?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
The windows are definitely not.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely not.
Yeah.
Yeah. What tells you definitely not?
Is there single pane?
They're aluminum.
Yeah, aluminum.
Yeah, they're aluminum, and they are new. Oh, they are new-ish aluminum. They're new, right? What were we doing? Above that, though, you see those little medallions up there across the top of the storefront. So all of these buildings have some nice details on them, and they're very intact. That's got new windows, but beyond that, you could definitely read that building as well, and that one. Okay, so let's keep walking down here a little bit. Here you got a big church, very prominent church. I think it was built, I'm not sure when it was built. We could find out. But I'm thinking 60s, something like that maybe, 70s. I know it's an African-American church, predominantly African-American church. And at some time, and I think probably still, that the congregation, the pastor, was doing a lot of work around gang-related things to work with gang members, stuff like that. Okay, see right through there is Woodlawn High School. Woodlawn High School through there. We can walk down there. Well, let's just walk as far as the school and then we'll be done. Yeah? Can we do that?
Both my grandmother and my great-grandmother went to Woodlawn High School
Yeah.
in the 40s and then in the 60s.
Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it looks excellent.
Oh, it's fabulous. It's one of them that hasn't gotten demolished.
There was some, they were talking about some structural problems with it in like 2000s at some point. I'm not sure if it got the money that it needed for repairs or not.
I think that it did.
It's still here, so.
Yeah, it's still here. And Woodlawn, as I said, was a very prominent middle-class neighborhood all the way through the 60s for sure. And a lot of people that graduated from Woodlawn High School went on to become leaders in something or other. I believe that started out as a predominantly white church. I could be wrong, but I think I'm right about that. So I just wanted you to get a little bit closer to the high school. It's a wonderful structure. Has a little bit of an Elizabethan thing to it. Definitely English Tudor. A lot of beautiful details. There was a movie out, 8 years ago, 10, 8? Yeah, 10 years ago. And it was a movie about the principal of the school in the 60s, I think, when the city of Birmingham schools were mandated to desegregate
Yeah.
long after they were supposed to. And there was a lot of talk about from the white students and parents, we're not doing it. And according to the movie, he calmed it down and said, no, we can do this, it's fine, no, we don't need to panic. And he was portrayed as a very progressive, brave person who calmed things down and led the school through that transition as best it could. It wasn't easy anywhere, but there were a lot of violent protests all over the city about that, all over the country about that. Okay, beyond this is a beautiful building that we're not going to see, but just beyond this yellow building over there is the Woodlawn Fire Department building. It's now something else, but it's one of the best fire station buildings you'll ever see. It's got a very cool stone turret, 1920s, really cool building.